The Business 20 or the B20 official G20 dialogue forum with the global business community kicked off today. The three-day summit was attended by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, External Affairs Minister S. Jayashankar and Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. Remember, the forum was established in 2010 and is amongst the most prominent engagement groups in G20, with companies and business organizations participating from world over. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman spoke on the focus for sustained global economic recovery. Let's quickly listen in to what she said.
The fiscal deficit needs also to be restrained. Otherwise, inflation is not going to be wholesomely defeated or brought under control. The second of the priorities I'd like to put before you is increasing the emphasis on investments to spur growth. That's a sure shot route to achieving growth, sustained growth, and therefore investment in physical assets needs to be substantially raised, driven by the public sector if it is possible, and complemented by private sector. So the public sector may also have to take the lead until the private sector steps in. That's the story which is happening in India, and you see unrelentingly Government of India looking focused for increased public expenditure. But I can see that it is also now attracting private sector to come in and invest. To have a large multiplier impact on recovery and growth, therefore, investments is the best answer. The labor force participation and also improving on productivity simultaneously with increasing investments are two essentials to go with it, and labor force participation rates will have to therefore increase, for which enabling policies will have to be made. Post-pandemic, only a few countries will have the fiscal room to increase public expenditure on capital, yet it has got to be increased. There is no way of looking at constraints and saying I can't have expenditure from public for capital increase. The third of the important factor is raising investments, even as I say for public expenditure, for investments, for infrastructure. I would say focusing on investments in public health and education is a very key priority for sustained growth. So globally, I think the focus should be on health and education. It is not as if only India, because it's part of the emerging market world, it has to spend on health and education. Health systems are collapsing even in developed countries, and unless money goes into that, we will have a health crisis. And it's no good to differentiate between developed countries and developing countries. Health is got to be kept up always in a very robust and dynamic fashion. Skilling also is important, and that's why I group it under education and health as two important public expenditure items.
All right, that of course is Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman talking about sustained growth, the parameters that will be important to sustain that growth. But other key prominent leaders also spoke at G20 event, the B20 as we are calling it. Remember, it will continue for the next 2 days as well. Let's quickly listen in to G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant, Hero Moto Group's Pawan Munjal and TCS's N. Chandrasekharan. All of them attended that event, and we'll leave you with those bites coming in from that event.
I think this is the best held B20 with the finest, very positive, progressive, forward-looking recommendations on a range of issues, starting from inclusion to climate to sustainable development goals to technological transformation to women empowerment. All these are key goals of India's presidency, and on all of them B20 has made very positive recommendations.
So the B20, while it's a parallel process to the G20, but it's an important one where business and private enterprise get together and make their recommendations, which they pass on to the G20, to turn into policy framework. And this has been done by building a large number of task forces, focus on digitalization, focus on technology, focus on sustainability, focus on gender balance. So the idea is to create a much fairer world, and one which is inclusive. Inclusivity has been one of the pillars on which the B20 has based a lot of their recommendations.
Equitable growth for all businesses among G20 and outside G20 nations. Through a consultative process, we engaged stakeholders across the world and came up with 9 themes, and we formed them as 7 task forces and 2 action councils. The task forces worked on the themes of global economic recovery, inclusive global value chains for resilient trade and investment, financial inclusion for economic empowerment, digital transformation, collaborative work in technology, innovation and research, and future of work that is required in terms of skilling and mobility, and finally energy, climate change and resource efficiency. The 2 action councils worked on embedding ESG in every business, and the second one on integrating Africa's economic development with the global economy.